And here we go once again with another podcast from the Z-Axis. It is time to talk about FPS+Z games once again, and we have a all-star cast of people here today to talk about the FPS games in the Z-Axis. And we have several new news things to tell you about. So first we'll go through who is here. I'm Winners with the One. Your host, who has hopefully got his internet fixed. Don't know. It's always something when we do these. But I'm joined by all sorts of folks. We've got FishStix here from Twitch. Tell them who you are and what you're about, FishStix.
Oh, hey everybody. My name is FishStix. I've been part of the Tribes community since Tribes 1. Way back in the day, played Tribes 1, Tribes 2 for a short stint, Tribes Vengeance, Legions, Tribes Ascend, and basically have been obsessed with Tribes for the majority of my life. I do currently work at Twitch and have been involved in esports generally over the last couple of years, but super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. ArmedPenguin is here as well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I should introduce myself, as I'm for the first time on this show. I am a bit of a Tribes newbie, only came in with Ascend. I have played in a few bad teams, casted in the EU scene for a couple of years now, mainly with the Tribes Cast Network. And since last year, I've started organizing draft tournaments in the EU region, and we're having one very soon, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely be talking about that. And Nordsmark is here. How are you, man? Give us a brief rundown of your biography, if you will.
Yeah, thank you. I'm good as well. And I'm like Armed. I started with Ascend as well, so a bit of a Tribes newbie. I started out fairly as a very casual player, but got into the competitive scene a bit late-ish in the lifespan, but still, like, prior to EUTL and NITL, which I competed in the Pro League on the team called Pelican through Season 1, 2, and 3, and placed third in Season 2 and 3, and then I came back to play for Flamboyant in Season 5, and won that season, which would be the last EUTL season to be there. So yeah, that's basically my rundown. I'm a competitive player who played at a, decently high level, I'd say.
Awesome. And also BugsPray is here from the recently greenlit Midair, and he's muted, so I hope he can... There he is.
Hey everybody, yeah, I was muted because my mic keeps on activating. So, but yeah, hey everybody, I'm BugsPray. I'm the project lead on Midair, and I'm a longtime FPS+Z fan. My history includes T1, T2, Tribes Vengeance, Tribes Ascend, Legions, and I haven't dabbled in Arms of Telos yet, but I'd love to do that.
Yeah, me too. So, Mabel, you're up.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm Mabel. I played a bunch of Legions, then I made some Legions, then I played a bunch of TA, and now I make Midair.
Okay, our first topic is Tribes Ascend. They've released, after a long period of inactivity, there's a new patch. It's called Out of the Blue, and major changes in the game, in the gameplay, and lots to unpack here, lots to talk about, guys. Your thoughts?
Is this the first show that you've had since the patch came out?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that was...
Okay.
Last time, I think they were back, in air quotes, right?
They what back?
Well, I mean, they were back, right? Like High-Res was back the last time we did one of these podcasts, but we had seen a few private updates on the private test server, but we hadn't seen any real updates to live. So this is actually the first time. This is the first time we've had it since that patch. So yeah, I don't know, someone who plays TA.
Let me Yeah, that could be me. Like, I think, okay, if you want my honest opinion on the patch, then I think it takes the game in the right direction, but it just feels a bit rushed, and like it wasn't. When I heard that they were deploying the patch like a week in a week back when that was announced, I was like, what? This isn't done. This is not gonna end well. And well, from what I've heard from a lot of people, that's the general consensus as well. Like, it's in a very rough state. Not something that can't be ironed out, but it's rough.
They changed all the classes, I know.
Yeah, so they completely revamped the game, trying to bring it more in line with the previous games, and it achieves that, but it's just that there's a lot of stuff to be like ironed out, and also as much as on paper it gets closer to the older games, it's still Ascent, right? It's still weak jetpacks, fairly weak jet jumps, regenerating health, all that. So it's in this weird state at the moment that I hope we got some, like, the next patch that is coming, but I don't know much about it. Like,
I'm honestly pretty curious to hear what you think is so rough about it. I mean, I hadn't been playing a lot of Tribes Ascend for quite a long time, and I jumped in, and from my perspective, it seems solid. The maps are good. I love the fact that all impulse knockback is plus 25%. Like, I think that's one of the best changes.
There's a lot of very solid stuff. There's a lot of very good stuff, like what you just said. But heavies are in this absurd state where they are, like, in the right hands, retardedly overpowered, I'd say. The radius on splash weapons, or on the impact weapons, so to say, like the spin fuses, is too large, and even more so in, like, say, the bolt launcher, the thumper, the what I like to call arcing impact explosives. It's like the heavy bolt launcher has the AoE of, like, a mortar, more or less. It's pretty ridiculous. Then there's also some, like, still some sniper balance issues, because they more or less got tuned in the wrong direction way too much, or in the right direction but way too much. It's like they probably didn't need that hard of a nerf as they did get. Other than that,
man, no one likes getting sniped.
Yeah,
nobody likes. No.
I'm fine with really underpowered snipers, man.
Yeah, no. I think it's.
I think the problem ends up being that it's sort of hard to deal with in comp, I guess. I mean, it's funny you say that about the splash in particular, because from what I know of it, the splash is sort of basically still slightly under what you would have in other games. What is it? The min fall off is to like 25%, or is it of the damage? Well,
I actually don't know, just like converting over to other games, but you also have to remember that in Ascent, the jetpacks and jetting is weaker, so it's harder to jet out and dodge those shots. And if you play it, just like you actually can't miss with the heavy bolt launcher. It's actually impossible. Like, you would have to like turn your mouse DPI up to like 5,000, and like maybe then we can like talk that you can like miss with it.
It does. Sorry, Mabel. It does feel like they have like lowered the skill ceiling a tiny bit with these changes, because they also made, or it feels like they made Midairs a bit easier to get.
They did, but I don't think that's as bad as some people make it out. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. I honestly don't think that's bad.
It's not necessarily bad. It's just that sometimes you feel like, that shouldn't have hit him, but it did. And
I don't think it's that bad. They also did, like, chain guns got their hitbox reduced as well, so you need more accuracy to use chain guns. Like, you need to you miss a lot easier with them now because of the hitbox reduction. So I think that's fine. Those two things, I actually really like the chain gun hitbox reduction as a massive chain haul. I like that. But and also like the disc hitbox like buff. I like those things. I just really don't like the class imbalance right now, and yeah, that's mainly it. Actually, I think that's the place where it's in a rough state. It's the class imbalance.
Yeah, another thing we should mention that the new patch brought out is that basically they removed all perks, and some of them were implemented into the armor classes. Like for example, the old perk where rest in peace, Winters. Well, as I was saying, the old perk where you would get extra energy for in a vehicle was now moved to the medium armor. Well, I think it was a perk like called Wieldy or something.
Really? Oh,
Kind of a Wieldy one of those.
Oh, dude, I don't even remember.
So, hi again.
Hello.
We're back. Yeah, I mean, I actually thought that was. I was really curious that they did that. It was. I never picked. Honestly, like of all the problem parts of TA, I never thought the class system was one of them. I mean, even the old class system that everyone really hated, I didn't think was a big issue. Like, I mean, aside from the number of weapons, I never thought having classes was like a huge deal. It sort of allows you to have interesting like balance knobs to tweak and stuff, because you can make things more differentiated and have sort of more, you can have like more latitude in like the sort of stuff you give people if you have them like more pinned into roles like that. Like you can't go crazy or you get super specialization, which is what happened to the sniper. That's why the sniper is going to be like over underpowered perpetually. But you know, these it seems like just have gone in like just the vanilla sort of trad direction, which is okay, but it just seemed like a strange fit.
Speaking of weapons, they also introduced a few new weapons, like a couple of guns that basically function like shotguns. Just they're not hit scan; they're projectile based, and they also drain energy. I've played a bit with them. They're fun to use, honestly, but very inconsistent with the hitboxes, just like the hitscan shotguns used to be, because it's either you hit one pellet and do like 50 damage, which is nothing, or you hit with like 12 pellets and you do, I don't know, 400 damage, which is 1/3 of a medium's health, something like that.
Honestly, the most like scary thing about those is like getting shot at with it, just the sound. It scares the shit out of me. It's like before you get run over by bees, I swear.
Not the bees.
Yeah, it's scary.
I've always liked the idea of having like more shotguns and reliable in the games. I like that they did that. That's cool.
There's also a fun little weapon that's called the Elf Projector, which is basically like a repair gun. Just that it does not repair; it drains the energy of the enemy, and once you drain the energy, it starts doing damage, and it does like 3, 5, or 7 damage depending on the class per tick. And
it deals a percent-based damage, and not like a flat amount of damage.
But it's
very
hilarious to use.
Damage, by the way. It's like it takes like a full minute to kill a light with it or something.
Let's just say that after they released it, we had a bit of fun in Mumble playing against each other just with elf guns. It was a bit silly. Like, it's obviously not a very competitively viable weapon, but I can see the appeal. Like, they want to introduce something, a mechanic where while you're dueling, you switch to the elf projector, you try to drain the energy so the guy can't move, and then you ground pound him into dust and stuff like that. I mean, it's not very good. It's not very good, but you can see the idea.
Yeah, and all this stuff is a work in progress, and that's a good thing about this, is that they're actually listening to the community now. They've got people dedicated to working on the project. They told us from Harish, Sean, and all those guys, they're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, as long as they are getting the boot, I guess, from the high ops, they'll keep doing it. Is what I think anyway. And I think they're doing a good job. I really like Sean and the rest of the team. It's a bunch of
they're really communicative. Like asked them a couple of things, and they were very helpful, helping us, with draft stuff and everything. And they also seem to listen really well to the community. I mean, most of the suggestions that you've seen through the PTS were implemented in some way or another. Of course, some were terrible and some were not, because,
Of course.
Nobody is perfect in the community. Nobody's going to know everything. And of course, it's a voice of many people. So someone's going to say something. Somebody's going to want the vehicles more powerful. Somebody's going to want them nerfed. And then it's conflicting,
And somebody wants heavies to be like the best thing in the game. And then we get.
I mean, that does have historical precedence.
Yeah.
It's not out of nowhere.
I mean, it's just kind of silly when you spawn in loadout and you spawn. And you just there's no reason to spawn as a medium at the moment, like at all.
Yeah, it's always been a thing that the games have struggled with like the sort of reduced set of mechanics in TA. I can see why that would happen. It's not, eternally the case, but it's the mobility of medium isn't such a big deal in TA, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I guess it is like when you look back at the other games, it might be that way as well, where the balance was kind of like this as well. And it's mostly because I'm a Tribes Ascent player and I'm used to back in Tribes, but before this out of the blue. Yeah, not just that. Like the balance between medium, light, and heavies in Ascent was actually fairly good. Like it was viable to do all of the things they all had, good rolls. I've played a lot of HO in my time. I've played even in the medium meta. I've been playing a lot of heavy because I was good at it. I played a lot of Juggernaut and Brute and did it very effectively. So suddenly you go from this like mediums are very good, but heavies are also very good to like heavy complete domination, and there's no reason to ever use mediums. Feels a bit odd.
What's the main reason for that? Because I see a lot of people complain about like the mobility on heavies even now. Although the forums.
Heavy mobility is very high compared to mediums. It's not very far off. Then you also get 1,000 more HP. You get an additional weapon slot, and you get better weapons, straight up better weapons. The heavy spin fuser is straight up better than both the light and the medium spin fuser. Which is something I've been need to like make uniform weapons across all the fucking classes instead of this. And they had that at some point in the PTS. They did, and then people complained and said that heavies were underpowered, but they weren't. But then they got
time will tell.
Yeah, indeed. And I'm interested to see how this plays out in the draft tournament. And ArmedPenguin, I guess you can tell us a little bit about that. It's January the 23rd and 24th is the EU draft tourney.
Yep. So how the patch will influence, we'll see. I mean, we have banned a couple of items because one of them causes an exploit, so we obviously have to ban that.
Euros like to...
you like all bans.
Euros like to ban. I'll finish that for him. Euros like everything. But no, the ban list is fairly short. Basically, just vehicles where like Shrikes. Shrike health is set to 50% because Shrikes are a bit too strong at the moment.
I've heard that. Yes.
Which is sad to say because vehicles longest time were very used very sparingly in comp. Like sometimes you'd see a Shrike. Rarely you'd see a Beowulf. Like Nordsmark and Black on Pelican were usually the guys that would bring out the Beowulf. Grav cycles were basically never seen.
What?
Almost.
No.
Really?
Except on some maps.
Grav cycles. In later EUTL, lots of people use graph cycles.
Yeah,
they're all about
those
Rain Dance. I want to see that.
No, it's all about those slow back route, almost llamas. Just fast enough to really upset the defense.
Oh yeah, the back slides. Lots of slides too. The medium slides, radar slides, all day.
Exactly.
That was a big jammer. No, the graph cycle had its place before. The graph cycle is in a pretty good state right now.
I mean, the vehicles were really rare, mostly because you turned the prices up so high that you could never get them out.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't really about the vehicles. Like, those things were always ridiculous. That's why the price was set so high. It's because those things, like the Shrike with, like, its acid-tipped wings, where it just, like, touches you and you explode.
Yeah. Okay. Shrikes were really... I mean, it was a bit less prominent after a lot of people started running Safe Fall, where you got immune. But that's not a thing anymore, so, you know.
I mean, it doesn't, like... Honestly, if you have cheap Shrikes, like, you could just do anything. You could just Shrike grab over and over. Or could. Mm-hmm. I think they changed that now, right?
Yeah, so now you get free Shrikes instead. But you can destroy the vehicle pad.
I thought they changed the... they changed that, but I thought they changed the Shrike ejection.
That's true, yeah, I forgot about that. You don't inherit at all the same amount of speed as you used to.
Because, like, basically, when we had free Shrikes at Nassau, we basically just won off that solo, right? Like, there's no way you can deal with free Shrikes with the old jump out velocities. Like, you could just go home. You could do whatever you want. You could just sit behind the old ones. Like, you could just sit behind the flag and do whatever you want. There's, like, nothing they can do to stop you. So I think that was one of the charming builds where the chain guns did, like, basically 0 damage to the Shrike, which was an amazing piece of balance. So you were seriously doomed, unless, like, I did see Tailspin, like, multiple times, like, just snipe ZP out of the Shrike, which is really dumb. And that was basically the only way you could stop them, is sniping the dude out of the Shrike, which is... Like, 3 people can do that anywhere near consistently, so it was sort of doomed from the start. But it's gotten better, I hear.
Yeah.
So I mean, how much interest has there been in the draft tournament? Do you have, like, a number of signups?
Yeah. So far, bear in mind we announced the opening of the signups just a couple of weeks ago, so it's gonna take a while. We've had 22 people that have signed up. And hopefully we'll have at least double that, so we can get something like 4 to 6, maybe even 8 teams. Like last year we had 8 teams at the first draft. And then we had like something between times we had 5, another time we had 6, another time we had 3. So
how many alternates does each team have? Is like teams of like 9 or
7. Teams of 7.
Well, they field 7, but you just have 7. That's a high commitment draft. 8. That's a high commitment draft tourney.
I mean, it's just over.
No, but there's this thing like EU drafts is just it's just 2 days.
Okay.
I know in NA they had you had draft tournaments that would last like a month or something.
Well, I'm comparing to like the T2 draft. The T2 draft. I was never around for any of the TA draft tourneys because I had quit long before that started. But you need a lot of people to deal with all of that flakiness. There's a lot of flakiness.
I think draft tourneys in the Tribes series have like this terrible reputation of like almost never actually being completed. At least in Tribes 1, that's how it was. People would always talk about it, and then they're like, when do we actually start this thing? I don't know. Sometime soon?
That hasn't been the case in EU, at least as long as I can remember, honestly. Even when in 2013, when Game Shrine tournaments were happening, people were still showing up.
TA has always run smoother than any of the other games, honestly. Just like a different crowd.
Yeah, I guess it's part of that as well. We also have a pretty good sign up page now, made by our community member. Can't remember his name, but he actually made a site for the draft.
He goes by Flagician now.
That's true. Yeah, that guy, Flagician.
Right. So we're just gonna wing this without winter.
Well,
I mean, there's plenty of discussion point. I want to talk a little bit more about Tribes Ascend, in general, and
in
the first place.
You do it then.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I thought when I saw the game was getting a huge patch and coming back, draft tournament's cool. I want to see an actual tournament. Like I know all the old players pretty much stopped playing, but I still get so much more hype for like a organized team than like just a random group. So if anyone out there wants to host something, I'm more than happy to cast it. I'd love to actually. But one thing that's been sort of sitting in the back of my head about this entire time about the fact that the game has been patched is it's kind of I feel conflicted about it. It's sort of like a double-edged thing for me because on one hand, it's amazing that Tribes is getting more love. I mean, we all love this series with our full hearts, so it's just great to see the game getting some attention. And in my opinion, a lot of the changes are good. Like the plus 25% knockback from all explosives is great. A bunch of the changes, I like the fact that they streamlined the classes. The new maps are pretty good. These are all great things, and I gotta give hats off to Hi-Rez because this patch was not a simple patch. Like it was very, very deep. Like the changelog is actually ridiculous.
It was really surprising. That was very surprising to me.
But the problem I sort of have with it is this might sound a little bit weird, but the problem I have with it is the fact that it doesn't actually give Hi-Rez any more revenue potential for Tribes Ascend. And, yes, this is by the community, or this is for the community. The Tribes guys over at Hi-Rez love the game and they want to make it better. All these things are fantastic. But the fact that I don't see any new ways to monetize, in fact, they stripped out monetization options, makes me worried. It makes me think that this is not a long-term thing. There's no way it's going to be sustainable for Hi-Rez to continue to put resources into a game that is just sinking money into a pit. So on one hand, I'm like, yes, patch Tribes, make it better. This is amazing. Keep people on it for at least a little while. This is all good. But on the other hand, it kind of smells like a PR move more than anything. Because if they're not going to make money, what's the long-term plan? What's the strategy? I haven't seen anything that shows me that there's like actually any long-term strategy here.
Yeah, well, I mean, brand image isn't valueless, FishStix.
No, it's very valuable. But that's not a reason to patch a game.
Well, I mean, it kind of is. Like if you see sort of the reaction that they get a lot of the time when people like the classic basic like Reddit thread, right, is like someone will bring up pirates, so it'll be like, man, I really disappointed about Tribes or something. Like, I'm not like, who knows why they do what they do, but like, or who knows like why like Hi-Rez decided to do these things, but like that would actually probably help that out a lot. And that's not a bad thing to be countering for them. Like, totally. You said they stripped out monetization options. Do you just mean like lessening the grind? Because
they really haven't. I mean, they the variants of the weapons. So in that case, they have sort of. But lately, like even before this patch, the XP grind that you needed to play the game free to the weapons was already like down to 25% of what it was originally, like 3 years ago.
Well, not originally. It's about on par with what it was originally. Like way back when it was Tribes. Was it tokens?
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
Way back when it was tokens. That you earned tokens at about an equivalent rate of the rate you earn gold now. Of course, that hasn't been relevant for basically anyone who actually plays the game for, the entire lifespan of the game. But like, it did happen. But yeah, they've basically they've cut it in half twice, I think.
Something like that. I think it's even more than that. But they did, like, one thing I must say as well, which I guess is a thing that I can agree with FishStix on, is I was surprised that they, after this patch, hasn't done anything to monetize this, because even though they did, I guess, didn't seem like they did a whole lot, they have the option of, all these unused models now from different weapons that were stripped out to, sell them as skins for different, say, Stealth Spinfuser skin for, your Spinfuser or whatever.
Yeah.
and like red discs and shit. Like they have all that art that isn't in the game anymore. So I don't know.
I feel like, and this is weird because you generally don't think of that. That the guys the 3 people that are working on this from Hi-Res actually want to fix the game before introducing more monetization options.
Oh, that's
which
great.
is weird because you don't think that the game developer is going to do it. You think they're going to be like, well, let's put new skins in the game and fix it later. But which is the CS:GO approach, I guess.
I'm not trying to sling shit here just for the sake of doing it. Like, I do really appreciate the fact that they're patching the game again. And in a hypothetical scenario where they keep 2 to 3 people on the game for years to come and continue to add content and continue to balance it, even if they don't add monetization models, that's fucking amazing. That's exactly what we as Tribes fans want. But I just don't believe that. Like, I don't believe that that's going to be the case if the game if they don't find new ways to monetize and grow the game and grow the base, the player base. Like, I just think this smells like temporary to me, which is kind of what I'm worried about, is just that this is a one-off patch, and maybe they'll do 1 or 2 more patches to fix up some issues and respond to community questions and issues. But I just don't see it being long-term unless they find ways to really grow the base. And another thing to talk about is the day that they released the patch, the player base spiked up like way higher than it's been in a really, really long time. If you go look at the Steam charts or SteamDB or whatever your preferred website is, it has a huge spike, but then it goes back down to almost exactly where it was. Within like 2 to 3 weeks, it's already back down to where it was pre-patch. So, I mean, I love that it's happening. I just can't see this continuing for too much longer.
It's not super surprising. I mean, that's usually how it goes, unless there's some big marketing push at the same time. Honestly, if the game gets, like you said, like 1 or 2 more patches, like it'll basically have more patches than like the vast majority of multiplayer games that anyone plays, right? Like it's not that bad for it to be sort of like wrapped and like done with, unless you really want it to like last forever, right? But like it could be worse. And yeah. I think actually it's also pretty reasonable that they didn't add in any mods. Like the fact that they didn't add it doesn't really wouldn't worry me too much if I was like a TA player, just because like if you look at sort of the personnel they don't really have anyone who'd be adding cosmetics or whatever, and you kind of want to I would assume you'd want to like work on the gameplay and build more goodwill there before just dropping, coming out of the blue and saying like buy our skins or whatever, because like people, most players have something to buy if they like, no one has maxed out the stuff. Like they'd have to come up with something. You're basically, they need something more desirable, or things that are like more micro on the microtransactions, which that like they could do that, but like I don't see that. I don't see that as being like a huge issue. We'll see if that happens as they work on their next big patch. Although I don't know.
Yeah, and Tribes always had this problem, at least Ascent, with player retention. Because people, came back to the game, and then they realized, holy shit, I suck, I'm getting wrecked by all these people that are probably hacking, which they aren't, but, it looks that way to some people. I mean, when you encounter Nordsmark in a pub server, you're like, holy shit, this guy is hacking. Like, oh my god, I can't play this game, I'm uninstalling. So thanks, Nords, for killing esports.
I got reported quite a few times, just like the first pub I played after the patch hit, like, people got mad. Just want to play the video game, and just like people get mad. I feel almost bad. Like, just want to play the video game, but
honestly,
I don't want to make the new players mad.
Honestly, unless you're level 1 smurfing, the vast majority of players aren't even going to get to the level where they get to play with you. If they still have the same division, like the 1 through whatever servers.
It's 1 to 10, and then it's like
then it's the Shark Tank.
10 plus. Yeah,
it's the Shark Tank. Where you
Yeah,
just
pretty
like
much.
you could just rando run into a comp player. Like you're just like getting better like every game, and then like bam.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's always
it's-
been the issue. Like people always called for that. Like,
I
guys,
mean,
we need more restrictions in between levels. But then lately you had the problem. Well, there's not enough players to have that, so you're stuck with someone that just came out of the novice servers playing against someone who has played for the past 4 years, and it's obvious that that person is not gonna probably stick around after getting his ass kicked like 4 or 5 times.
I honestly have a hard time believing that's the source of
That's not the
most-
majority of
yeah, it's not the
players,
that's
It's
not
some
the
of
majority
it.
case. Yeah, but it's
Well,
I have
we'll
hard time
talk
believing
about
it's
that
majority.
with some of these other games.
Oh
'cause-
yeah,
yeah, and hopefully I'm back here.
our gracious host
Me-
returns.
me.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Well, hopefully this will hold. Yeah. And then I was back, and then it was not showing my microphone.
Fun.
So, Midair
Midair.
Mid
has been
air.
greenlit.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, it has been
We did
greenlit.
it, boys.
It was awesome, man. Like the community was super involved in making that happen, and like we got greenlit in under 7 days. Like that's that's pretty legit. Like I know,
Amazing.
like internally we were super stoked to see that. Like seeing the little like internal charts and things that were putting us in like the top 10 games and stuff. Like that was really really encouraging. Because the thing everyone's thinking, right, is like, well, how is Midair going to compete with things like other FPS+Z games, like the rest of the Tribes series and Tribes Ascend with their new patches and stuff. And at least there's some sort of initial interest in seeing a competing product there, and like Greenlight totally showed that. So we're super stoked about that, and again, it was kind of thanks to the community and all the hard work that the team has done up to that point. And now we got to keep on looking forward and look to Kickstarter and bigger and better things.
So Kickstarter is coming too on top of this.
Yeah. So our intent is to get the game to a pretty solid state, and get enough of our ducks in a row that we can really communicate the vision for our game, and then launch a crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, with the hopes of raising enough money to help us kind of continue this longer into the future. And we've put in over a year and a half's worth of work, of our own time and money up to this point.
How many people are working on it now?
We have we just
More than
added
before,
actually a couple. Yeah, so I think we're in like 22. I think 22 is the number now.
Wow.
I'll have to double check that. But yeah, it's a mix
lot of
of a lot of different disciplines and people, and of course it's all not all. We aren't 100% volunteer, but we're mostly volunteer, and so it's nice to kind of shore up. Like on top of being volunteer, we're also of varying different skill sets, and like we all kind of come from different industries, and rallying around kind of our passion for these kinds of games, and wanting to make a new great version of these kind of games that we love. Because of that, we need to kind of shore up different skill gaps in different areas, and so like our team kind of gets big because of that. But we're all like learning a lot, and like people, like it's been really fun to see people grow in their skills. And like honestly, the kind of stuff we've been putting out over the last year or so, you can probably see the increase in quality as time goes on, which is great. But yeah, it's we've grown, and like we have different different team lead. Like it's been this whole like kind of interesting organizational challenge too, because how do you manage a volunteer project? I mean, Winners, you're really familiar with that as well. With your game, and we have we actually have like a group of people, like more than one person doing marketing. I mean, well, number one, for indie game, having one person doing marketing is a challenge. And we have multiple people, so we're pretty we're in a pretty good spot with that. And we have we have a group of guys doing code, and we have a huge group of guys doing art, which is by far like the biggest, the sort of like heaviest. I don't know how to even say this. Requires the most resources of like any other kind of,
for sure,
work
man.
stream in games, right?
The most resource intensive.
Most resource
Yeah, so you
intensive.
got Hi-Res Benji. Well, he's not Hi-Res anymore, but Benji working with the sound too.
Yeah, Benji came on board, My name's Benji. I worked on sound design for Tribes Ascend, and I want to come work with Midair because we love these games, want to make it happen. And we brought him on, and he's been kicking ass. He's been doing a great job. And actually, our sound and music team is 3 people now. So we have
Cool.
If people know his alias, his name's Cruncha or Alston. He is a big Tribes fan. Yeah. He does a lot of EDM work and that sort of thing, but he's getting into sound design, and so he's been with us for a while now and has been doing a great job. And then we have Benji, who just joined us, and then we also have Owen, who's working on our soundtrack, and when we do our streams and the videos come out and stuff, people keep on asking about that, and he's been doing a great job at kind of giving us a nice kind of unique OST for Midair.
Cool. Mabel, how are things going from your side of things, from your perspective?
Well, it's complicated.
Of course it is, but yeah.
We're just working away on getting all the game features in and ready so that we can wait for some art to get done for them. It's fun. It's actually it's always good to when we play the game and you see it. You see like people like, oh, people can actually like have fun now, or you change things and it was like, oh, it got better. We did it.
Like it's a real game. Yeah.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but
It's definitely like a big departure from our initial PAX demo. Was it capsules? Did we have capsules for our initial PAX?
We did not have capsules, but we were close.
It was pretty darn close to just capsules, but like going from the everything is gray and everything is just a hitbox flying around trying to hit each other, like that is it's been nice to see over time all the different art assets being added and the gameplay improved upon and getting feedback from people actually playing the game. The latest PAX event that we did, we got a lot of great feedback on. We've already been making a lot of great progress on solving some of the issues.
I think you guys will remember my feedback.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for that in every thread. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of threads, we've got a thread that people were invited to ask questions in, so we can go through some of those if you'd like.
Yeah, that sounds great.
We've got one from Proj. He was on our last FPS+Z cast, and a good dude, that Proj. I hope I'm not blowing his cover of his shtick by saying he's a good dude, but always some interesting things to say, Proj. And his question is, what concrete new stuff does Midair have in store to differentiate itself from the rest of the Tribe series and deflect the criticism that it's not just that's just a Tribes ripoff? And this is probably something you guys are encountering more as you're getting out of the more hardcore audience, which anybody that's listening to this, you're hardcore and we salute you. But yeah, when you get into more of the mainstream and you get into people that they might have fooled around with Tribes Ascend a little bit here and there, and then they look at this and they go, well, this looks all like Tribes Ascend. Yeah, how do you address those kinds of consumers?
Yeah, it's a super fair question, and it's something that we've been thinking long and hard about. How do we, keep the core game in a way that we keep all the really great stuff about the old games, while also kind of improving upon the formula a little bit in ways that don't completely break everything, or what are the things that we can add that really provide new and interesting value to the users. And up until this point, I can't say that we've really shown a whole lot of what we have in mind for that vision, simply because we're working on the core game. The core game needs to work and feel great. Otherwise, it'll just be dismissed. If you remember playing, some of us remember kind of playing Legion's early beta, where it was Hummingbird Simulator 2011, or I don't know when that thing came out.
2008. Bro.
2008. Wow. Yeah, so if you remember that kind of thing, that kind of feel it just wasn't good, right? And it turned off a lot of players who like these kind of games and that sort of thing. And if you ever mess up things like netcode or physics or things like that, you have to get that right. And so we've been spending a lot of time like working on those sorts of things to make sure that the core game feels right. And I think up until this point, that has been our kind of focus. Now is sort of our point in which we're branching out, and now we're going to say, okay, now time to bring like something innovative, something new and fresh into the mix. Because ultimately, like if people want to play the old games, they'll go play the old games. If we just make the old games, then there's nothing really new drawing the existing fan base away from that, or anything that shows like, hey, as a new player, you're getting into something that is actually interesting and will challenge you in different ways. And we have a few different areas that we're looking to try and improve on. And we can talk about some of those now because I think they're interesting, and it'd be good to get kind of some discussion from the people here around it. One of the ways that we want to so there's like gameplay things, and there's other kind of general improvements, and from a general improvement standpoint, what we really want to do, and something that we mentioned before, didn't really hit on it a whole lot with the Greenlight, but is really, really important, we think, to these sorts of games, is a map system that allows the community to build and create maps. Maps are like, in our opinion, sort of like the lifeblood of these games. Like new, fresh maps change the way that you play. If you're the kind of person who likes to assemble a team and come up with a strategy on, for the big match that you're going into, right? Like the map that you choose, like totally dictates how your strategy plays out. Even for people who play in public games and things like that. Like I don't know, if you look at like Elite Warriors Online, like one of the longest running like Tribes 2 servers back in the day, right? All these players who we wouldn't consider super competitive players, but they were super committed players and played a lot. Like they were always trying out these like new crazy maps and downloading new map packs, and like it kept the life of the game going long term. And so having a system that allows the community to build their own maps and put it into like some distribution service, so it's not like a really fragmented system where go to this random website that stores a bunch of maps and download a zip file and read the README and extract it, like that sort of system, we think would be super helpful in like increasing the longevity of the game, making the game itself just more interesting and more fun, and also create a community around creation in the game.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to hear that. I know with #Rect, we're doing it where you've got like an SDK, and basically if you've got Unreal Engine 4, you can make a map, and then we'll have some assets that you can use to throw in and make that. Are you guys talking about doing something along those lines?
So yeah, so something in quotes, like the exact implementation details, like to be completely frank, like we're not working on that system now. Like that's a pretty easy thing to say. And the reason for that is because of what I just talked about, right? We're working on the core game, we're working on making that solid. Things like Kickstarter will go to funding like something like that. Just because it ends up being like this huge, like you have to have dev resources, art resources, all centered around making that thing happen. For instance, if you're a community mapper and you're really good at level design, but you're not quite the best artist in the world, like you need to have a bunch of assets that are available to you in order to create a map. And like if you looked at like Tribes 1, Tribes 2 in particular, and they had a pretty thriving mapping and modding scene. Like most maps were server side, because they use like the same terrain just with like kind of different configurations of assets on it. Even some of the client-side maps, they're client-side because like let's say the terrain would have changed, but they are still using like the same assets that were already made, right? And it's like they're using those as building blocks to create these new experiences. And so in Midair, we need to make sure that there are enough of those building blocks, and they're built in such a way that you don't just see the same base repeated over and over and over again, but like people can actually create new configurations of bases, of terrain, of environmental assets and things. And so because of that, like it's just a huge amount of resources. We've been building the game with that in mind, but in like actually fully realizing that like Kickstarter is going to be super important in making that happen.
Okay.
Now, in terms of like other kinds of things that we're looking to improve upon, I mean, I think number one, our art style is a huge differentiator. Like our art style is, I mean, it's very much kind of like a TF2E, a little bit of mix of the Tribes kind of feel, like very stylized. It's based on some lore that we haven't really talked about much yet, but like it's got this feel that's definitely different from Tribes. We like it a lot for a lot of the visual gameplay elements it brings. Like we thought long and hard about that when we were building it. But like if you look at Tribes, you look at this game, and you didn't see gameplay, like you'd see a huge stark contrast. you add gameplay, like things get a little more muddied, obviously. But that's a huge thing that we've been working hard on because we think it's really important. So in terms of like other kind of gameplay elements, I mean, movement is obviously going to be a little different for the average player. They're not going to come in and be like, "Oh yeah, this movement was a little bit different than Tribes 2 in these specific ways," and that's cool. Like they're not going to really say that. They're going to kind of feel whether or not it's good or not. But for things like, let's say, weapons, we are planning on expanding beyond like the core Tribes-like weapons because we think that there are some other interesting things you can do there. We're looking pretty hard at things like the pack system. So we've been sort of referring to them abstractly as abilities. I think that the inventory screenshot in our Greenlight trailer and also in the list of images in Greenlight showed, I think, abilities there.
Spawning much speculation.
Ultimately, like in these games, you have the ability to if you have an energy pack, get a little more energy, faster energy regen. If you have a shield pack, deflecting damage in one way or another, and like this sort of varies across all the different games. But for the most part, like you have a pack, right, and you have some active or passive thing. We are interested in kind of like tweaking that a little bit and seeing what we can do with it. See if we can make that kind of more interesting. Base play is another thing we're going to kind of look into a bit more deeply as well. Of course, I can't really talk like in specifics about this because these sorts of things where you're trying to mess with the formula a little bit to try and make it more interesting. It involves a lot of tweaking, a lot of prototyping, a lot of back and forth with testers and things like that. So it's hard for me to say like we're going to exactly have this and that. We'll hopefully have a bit more by the time Kickstarter comes around, like more specifics around that. But like base play again is one of those places we're looking at. We're looking at items and unique things to do with items. Deployables, vehicles. We also have some like kind of general improvement ideas around things like spawning or quality of life things that you don't really realize that you kind of wanted that until it was there. And the Tribes games in the past weren't really like super modernized in a lot of ways. Ascend kind of brought some of those modern things to light, but we think that there's more room for improvement there. So like moral of the story is we have all of these kind of like areas that we kind of want to improve on, and the end package should look like something that is more different than Tribes Ascend. Clearly, it's not going to be like if you're a Counter-Strike player and you've heard of Tribes, you played it like once, and you heard of Tribes Ascend, you played it once. If you hear of Midair and you go and play it once, you're going to be like, oh, this is like a Tribes game. Like, there's no way you can really get away from that given what we're doing, right? Like, there's no delusion there.
It is a Tribes game. I mean.
Yeah, so like we're not delusional in that regard, but we do think we're gonna be able to offer a lot of new and interesting things for players who've played the game before to come in and say like, okay, yeah, this is actually a nice departure from like the same old.
And internet code.
Oh, and internet code, yeah.
I mean, if you told me right now that it was like Tribes Ascend but with working netcode and proper monetization and everything. That's pretty much what most people were asking for ages. So
I don't know about that optimization thing, but you can play. It's not fast, but you can play cross region. So there's at least that.
That's
good.
Awesome. Yeah.
I
think UE4 helps a little bit with that. You have a little bit more leeway than with UDK as far as making the netcode work a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wouldn't dream of doing half the stuff we're doing on without UE4. Like it's just not. It's the only thing that allows me to do half of what I can do. Like it could be better. Like I'm never going to be like, oh, it's perfect because but it's just so much better than everything else in terms of just allowing me to do what I need for just pick any part about the game.
Yeah, one of the neat things, because you mentioned the cross-region thing, when we were first kind of testing it out, Void Spawn is one of our artists, and he's over in Finland, and we had a server in Chicago, and he hops in, and he's like, wait, where's this server again? Which is kind of a cool thing. He's like yeah, he was super, super surprised at the effect of kind of the changes that Mabel had made.
Like the chain gun works.
Yeah, like you're actually
kind of amazing.
He's also a TA player, right? So
yeah,
just having working netcode is just like a huge leap for him,
Yeah, it's very encouraging, especially for things like when we're talking about this EU draft tournament, and you like to see people able to play from North America and vice versa, and these sorts of things.
Well,
There's some real limitations on like how much there's only so far, right? The speed of light is really slow and it's upsetting. So there's only so far. You have to pick the right server locations. Like you'd probably have to pick something like London to get real NA players there. But the upside is that it's really not a super noticeable difference, like from between like London and Germany, depending for your average user in Europe.
Well, people will be able to run their own servers, right?
Well,
maybe.
Well, so Chris? Yeah, we had put out some information that said that we're looking at a hybrid of kind of this like curated server system where like you can actually kind of like purchase a server similar to kind of the TA model, but like we're still kind of looking at what that is. We know we want both the ability for admins to go and customize how they want their community to play it. Like one of the most awesome things about T1, T2 in particular, like a little bit of Tribes Vengeance. I don't know how this really worked out in TA because I quit pretty early in TA.
Wow.
Was like you can have an entire like 57th. If you guys remember, 57th was like a good example of this. They had like hundreds of players like in this team, or at least like consistently going back to these servers. And I think they like banned you for cursing and like did all this kind of stuff like that. Competitive players don't really care about, right? But these guys did, and they fostered a community around that. And if you go and looked at it, like it was actually just a neat community they built with like ranks and like organization and all that kind of. It's, for those kind of people, it's a super fun thing to have. And if all you have are things like matchmaking and stuff, you lose a little bit of that, right? Because you don't have the ability to have a consistent place for you to go.
Are you looking at matchmaking? Because I know Blitz and several other players have asked about this in this list here.
Yeah, we are. So we're looking at matchmaking. We're looking at some sort of dedicated service solution, whether it's you actually host the medal yourself and put our game on it, or we host it somewhere and you just like pick a location. Like we're still working out the details on that. It's like probably going to
or something.
Yeah, and like we might work with partners, and we actually are currently in communication with partners about that right now. But yeah, like we're gonna have both. Like we like matchmaking as an idea because it helps. It's like one way that we sort of solve the how do you deal with the noob versus veteran balance question. Like we have other ideas on how to solve that too. Like ultimately, we want the game to be easy enough for new players to pick up. They don't feel super discouraged, but part of that is also like, okay, put people together that are kind of around the same level. And with tribes, there are a lot of factors that make that a very complex equation that we need to work through. And this is going to be a big technical challenge for us. Like, going to call it out right now. There are challenges around things like total player base size that you have to, like active player base size, that you need to have a decent enough player base in order to make that really effective. I mean, if you only have 12 people playing, like you can't mesh them up any other way, right? So you have to deal with that. There's like questions around like what data do you collect? How do you analyze it? What are the tolerance levels? Like, if someone's a capper, how do you weight them against someone who's like a chaser? Like, because you just have different metrics that come out of that you have to deal with. So it's a problem that we're looking really hard into, and we want it because we think it's really important. But we think it can exist in symbiosis with like a dedicated server model as well. Seriously
though, I love play buttons.
Yeah.
I really hate server like just like my personal preferences. I just don't want to deal with it. Like NS2 was like such a pain in the butt to play because there's like a million like weird like custom servers where like they've got like all sorts of obscure rules, and they have like overflow slots that'll like kick you and bounce you around to other servers that they host. So which they can do for some reason. So you'd end up like bouncing between like 3 different servers, waiting the NS2 load times between each one, and it's just like there was that kind of user experience is just awful. So you need to provide people with a better alternative than that.
Yeah, and you also run into the problem similar to this, like for example in Counter-Strike, if you pick a community server, sometimes it's going to start a download of something, and you're like, I didn't want to download Quake sounds. Thank you, CS server. I have quit the game and restarted because I don't want to download this stuff. So it's good to have like the play button and also a server browser for those that want to use it. Of course, the play button has to work, unlike in Ascent.
It used to work.
Well, it works. It just like puts you on like a Brazilian server as a European, but it works. It puts you on the server.
You guys covered weapons a little bit. We can look forward to some new things on weapons.
Yeah.
Base versus LT. This is a big topic with people. Are we going to be doing like vehicles and generators and stuff like that, or is it going to be more LT style?
That is a really gigantic thread too on the subreddit. A really long thread. Well, I don't know, Chris. Do you want to talk about this?
Oh, this is in your camp. This is.
Man. Well, I mean, look. I mean, you hear me talk, then you hear Chris talk, and I feel like it's clear why I'm doing this. So, ultimately, we've sort of said this from the beginning that we don't really think that LT is sort of like a viable game. Sort of just if you just put a newbie right in LT, they're gonna have a horrible time. And it's there's no way to fix that, right? It is way too dependent on all of the mechanics of the game fitting together. Like you need to play the flag and be able to ski and be able to do and you need some level of awareness, and you can't just dick around in your base, right? Yeah, planting turrets. Yeah, there's there's nothing you can do. Yeah, right. I mean, some people really do, and there's just nothing there for them. And it's so in that level, there's no expectation that the base game is going to be LT. That said, I said that I think the core of any of these games is LT. For the game to really work, I think that the LT has to work on some level, right? Just in terms of cap or chaser, matchup, that is kind of just LT. There's all sorts of layers on top of it that of base changes sort of the your cost metrics a bunch, but it's still at its core that needs to work. Light versus light, it needs to function. So it's not we're just LT is never happening. We play the game in basically LT, right? And test it to sort of just when Chris says we're working on getting just the core gameplay, that's a lot of what the core gameplay is.
Yeah. Well, I would think you could address some of this with maps, right? Because if people are able to make their more custom maps, because we tried LT with Tribes Ascend, and there were a lot of reasons that it kind of felt awkward. And I think you can definitely make maps that address LT a little more directly. It seems like
smaller maps that fit more with LT. Yeah. I agree. That's definitely a thing. And having different maps for different sizes of games is good, important, even. So I agree with that. I think that TA playing TALT, you can really feel how it's just a real struggle.
I think TALT could work better now post patch actually, but
I'd be
entirely different subject, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see, but getting people together to do that sort of thing is understandably
getting a SEN players to do that is the thing. Trust me.
No, that's way better than any of the other games.
Yeah, because we tried to do it officially for High Res at QuakeCon. We had the only official LT tournament, and it with the style of just the movement and the gameplay and the maps too. It didn't really work with that particular game, I don't think, as well as it does with some of the older Tribes games.
Yeah. I mean, not pre-patch, right? That's for sure now. TALT before this patch was boring as shit. Let's just put it that way.
I think when we say we're really, I really do think that it's the core of the game, and we do work on basically LT, and it's important stuff. So I hopefully it'll just end up being playable like that in the end, because I know that there are just players who just want that. If that's the way they want to play the game, it really doesn't cost us very much to sort of set them up and let them do that. I mean, it's just CTF, right? How hard could it
Right.
be?
Are you balancing around a certain team size, or have you given much thought about that?
So I've talked in the past about sort of what I think about team size. I mean, say that's a weird question, right? Because that there's like the assumption that there is like any one team size, like, you know, for how many players, right? Like, if I assume I'm going to get a bunch of comp players and put them in a 16v16, I'm not balancing for that, right? Like, it's, you know, it's just not. I'm not. And,
Yeah, understandable. Yes.
but like for a pub game, that's totally like a reasonable number, you know, like with how you know, you just like need way more players in a pub just because people like are playing way less tight. So you need all the extra players to like fill in the gaps. That's we're sort of, you know, I think the standard group LT size, fives, and being like flexible, you know, having fives be sort of like the minimum where it like plays comfortably, and having it be flexible, you know, it playing like sixes or something is good for LT. I think base, we sort of looking at getting it working for 7 through 10, 7 through 10s, 11s maybe, for a competitive level, and you know, then the pub games, just you can just the sky's the limit, or you know, whenever your bandwidth runs out. You know, I'm not promising giant numbers because it's a huge technical challenge and blah blah blah. But you know, we're the target for a pub game is definitely higher than that.
Okay, and then here's a question about Discord that I really don't understand, but you guys do have a Discord, yes?
No, there is no official Discord.
No, it's unofficial? Okay.
It's Dare's Discord, so.
Wow.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I do idle it because there's some interesting conversations that go in there. Like, I like to keep up on it, but it's not like we aren't running that in any way. So people can go join it if they want.
Okay,
So
so the best place to get at you guys is the subreddit then, I guess?
Subreddit, IRC, as antiquated and horrible as it is, we can usually be caught there too.
Yep. And like if you're a social media person, you can do Twitter or Facebook, and we'll respond to that through there too.
Okay, so you're keeping IRC alive. Okay.
Yeah, although, I mean, if it's like the likelihood that I will respond through Twitter is basically zero.
Well, what happens with those mediums is Jordan, our social media guy, will get it and then come ask us a question, and then if we can answer, then we'll send it through him. But
yeah,
but it isn't like a direct line. Like if you just jump into IRC, you might get. But I guess I can talk about this now. We're looking at getting official forums up soon. TM.
Like on the website?
Like on the website. Probably not within the week or anything, but probably within the month. So there will be an official place where we'll have like devs communicating with people regularly, and you know, that sort of thing, like outside of Reddit.
And I noticed that you guys are doing weekly streams now, or semi-weekly. It seems like where like I saw one of the map guys, and then there was an art stream. Are you going to keep doing that?
Yeah, and well, at the time of this recording, we're going to have a stream in about 40 minutes. Stealth's going to go do more level design on there. Okay. But we are doing this weekly now. So I believe 4 p.m. Eastern is our time on Sundays now to do a stream. There may be more here or there depending on how things work out, but we are for sure committing to a Sunday stream. And we'll have different people on. It's been Void Spawn and Stealth for now. So you know, doing 3D art and level design, but we're looking to add things like you know, code and you know, not necessarily like watching Mabel code, because
no one wants to see that.
He like sits there and stares at a screen for a little bit, thinking and not talking, and then like writes a few things and bounces it around, and then like sits there and waits again. So like that's not going to be the most entertaining thing.
To be fair, it's hard to make coding into a compelling stream for anybody.
Yeah, oh yeah,
it is. But like Michael on our team, it's likely that, you know, he does a lot of work in editor, kind of getting things working, and so that's more interesting, and he can kind of talk through that. So we might get him on. We've been talking with Benji about doing some sound work. People have been wanting to see Owen do some music stuff. And so like we'll mix it up a little bit. The first couple again have been kind of art and level design, but we'll mix it up and show you guys some cool stuff.
Okay, well, that's a whole lot of information that we've gotten today. So thanks for being more forthcoming about. Well, now that you guys are greenlit, I guess you can be a little bit more open about some of the things that are going on. So
yeah,
and it sounds like there's quite a bit. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, like as we kind of like start to solidify things, we can talk about more things. When it's not solidified, like, okay, we can tell you that we wanted to do A and B, but like C, D, and E were also options at the same time, and turns out they worked better after we started testing them. And we don't want to upset people that we said it's going to be like this when it becomes something else, and people just get weird expectations around that stuff. And so it's not like we just really want to withhold everything, but it's just more, once we know, then we will tell you. Like, there's no reason for us not to tell you once we know.
I mean, right. You want to give people concrete things and not seem like you're walking back on things. Yeah, that's understandable.
Our primary reason for it's not even about like we're keeping it under wraps for the green light and stuff. It's just like a lot of the time when we don't say things because we want to be committed to, saying, bringing, a certain level of quality to the community, right? Like we, we just want to maintain like this quality level and like say like, hey, we're serious. And it's part of what, I hope that it works. I hope people sort of get that vibe that, we only bring things to the community when we're like serious about doing them. And, just like not running around with all this information that's like rapidly changing and like gets axed and is sort of like full of half-filled ideas, half-formed ideas is part of what makes us serious. So.
Well, yeah, and just from what I know and what I've had to do so far in game dev, I think that's a wise path to take. And, before we move on to some of these other games and head out, is there anything else you guys want to mention about the game that we haven't covered?
I have a question.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, go for it.
What happened to Freaky's recording of the pickups that were held after the PAX event?
Oh, no.
I want to see them.
Yeah, we encouraged him to post them up there after we had a chance to put out our stuff, but I don't know. I'll poke him again.
I guess I just need to buy Freaky because I had stuff to do that night, and then I had like the hardcore FOMO ever. After I heard that there were pickups played after, I'm like, God damn it! I shouldn't have done this business thing or like partied with this friend. I should have just played Tribes.
Yeah, it was.
I want to see it
fun,
though.
Actually, yeah.
It's okay. The new versions are much better.
Okay.
Yeah, you're gonna get a whole lot of gentle hand slap in that one.
All right.
For the ring launcher reload.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll find out from Freaky.
That
right now the
dude.
Seahawks are playing, so I'm sure he's incommunicado while that's happening. So.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I wish you guys the best of luck, man. I think
absolutely.
I think what's really going to differentiate this. I mean, we can talk about gameplay all day, but I think it's going to be a lot of the stuff outside of the gameplay itself, like matchmaking, tournament systems, good spectating, things like that really make this game stick out to both tribes people and non-tribes people. So, great, good luck, everybody. I'm rooting for you guys. I'll be there to play the early builds and stream and all that stuff as much as possible. Looking forward to it, man.
For
Thanks,
sure,
man.
me too.
Appreciate it.
And yeah, you're right, FishStix, because I mean, when you're making a game, you're mostly thinking about the bedrock stuff, the netcode, and do things work. But to the mainstream audience, they're looking more at things that are all kind of after all that. What do the menus look like? Is there matchmaking? Are these things that are kind of part of having a modern game? And that's kind of where we're at with our game, #Wrecked, Dawn of Beginnings, which just got trademarked. Yay.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Nice.
We've got pretty good gameplay, we feel like, and so now it's just adding the bells and whistles that make people go, oh, this is a game, that recognizes, in your brain that this is a game. So, and sometimes that's the most tedious part, but it's the most necessary part, really, especially there's so many games. I don't have to tell you, you're at Twitch TV, there are so many games out right now, and there's so many people competing for those eyeballs and that time playing. So you really have to work on those things in order to stand out. And it sounds like the Midair team it's a large team, and it sounds like they're pretty dedicated to doing that. So
yeah, we're definitely big, but we're all pretty passionate about it. Like the people who sort of, who aren't, tend to, I mean, it's hard when you're working on a project like this to stay committed if you aren't passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what percentage or how many of the 22 people are actually on salary or getting paid? Or is it mostly volunteer, I assume?
It's mostly volunteer, and I think I'm not going to talk about that specifically.
Okay.
Sorry, maybe like offline or something, but
Okay.
Well, it depends on how well the
now.
Kickstarter goes, right?
yeah, if Kickstarter goes great, everybody will be paid.
Yeah, there's just a pretty big difference between 22 people full time and 22 people, 19
it's not
or
that.
20 of which are like doing it for 2 hours a week.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not even. Yeah, no.
Well, and
I
while
feel
I've
ya.
got a mic and it's working for once here, and I can talk about hashtag Wrecked a little bit,
Yeah, that's
because you guys
true.
brought up something that it has been talked about in the arena shooter community too. And I was like, why make something that is essentially Quake, or why well trodden ground? Why what differentiates your game? I can tell people that we just put out a new build, and it's very basic, but just to test some game modes that are working, and they seem to work fine. But I can say that coming up, nobody's really going to be asking that question to us, because we are really going to make something that is different than other arena shooters on the market, and look and feel. I'm very confident in saying this. Don't sleep on it. It is an unknown group. It is our first game, but I think we've got something that potentially is going to be. It may not set the world on fire, but it will certainly be different than the other arena type shooters that are coming out on the market now. So I'm proud to be part of that.
Well, you guys just had your first. I just went to look at your website. You had your first post in a while, in last week.
Yeah, we had some personnel changes, and so you know how that goes. You take a couple of steps back and a few more steps forward, but the steps forward are going to be more confident, I think. So we've got a lot of the basic stuff down, like I said, and so now it becomes adding things to the. And we've got some good people working on maps and stuff. Greth has been doing some cool work for us, and we will, like you guys do. We'll also be allowing people to put their own custom maps into the game, and we've got some interesting game modes that we've done some tests with that people have had a blast with, and we've just had a good time playing. When you have the kind of thing where a few hours have gone by and you're just like, no, all right, one more round. And it's like, oh shit, it's almost midnight. That's, to me, that's the sign of good progress. So I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, I with Midair a couple times, and with Legions, when we were working back on Legions a while back, I just remember getting lost, like skiing around the map, just by myself in a server, no one else around, for like an hour.
That is devastating, because like that still happened. Like you can just like end up skiing around in a circle, and you're just like, oh man, I just wasted 30 minutes doing absolutely nothing. Like there was absolutely no value to me doing that.
But that's what makes the game fun at its core, when you can just do that. And I mean that's what we had, most of the fun we had in Tribes Sim was just kind of fucking around. What does this do? How can we break this? Oh, we broke it. And so yeah, that's I think that's a necessity for any really good game, and certainly a shooter game. And speaking of shooter games, I talked to Justin, the lead dev of Arms of Telos, and that one is making some pretty good progress. He's going to be at FadeCon next week in Dallas, and what he's working on right now is more single-player content. There's a tutorial mode that will also be a challenge mode. I guess it's kind of like one of those racing things where you try to set times and stuff, and there'll be leaderboards. So I think that's good. I mean, it's tough. I mean, we're talking a lot of this stuff we're doing. We're talking about multiplayer only, but it's nice to have something to kind of hang your hat on, single player wise, when you don't have the audience, multiplayer wise all the time to play against and so forth.
Sure.
So I think that's a pretty cool thing, and the game looks awesome.
He never comes in here to talk to us.
Well, we're probably gonna bring him on when he gets a little further into the project here pretty soon. Maybe the next one. Maybe the next Z-Axis one.
Yeah, because the only unfortunate thing is that there isn't a whole lot of gameplay footage out there, and I just haven't played it. So it's hard to comment on a game because it's real different from really anything.
Yeah,
and that's cool, but it's hard to talk about something off like a couple 5-second HTML5 videos that got embedded on Tumblr or something, right?
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
I'd really love to, even if just like getting extended. I like clearly I wouldn't ask anyone to do that because it is perilous. Like releasing video is extremely perilous, but it'd be. I would like to see your players or something to have something.
Me too. Yeah, because even a long video, it's hard to capture the feel, isn't it?
Yeah,
Even the videos we've seen in Midair, it doesn't really capture, what it feels like to play until the players get it in their hands. And so I think he's getting close to a place where he's going to expand the player base, and he's talking about putting it on itch.io and then later doing the Steam Greenlight, I think is his path. And yeah, we'll bring him on to talk more about it as he gets going. But I know that aggressive crotch display is among the testers of the game, so shout out to ACD. So if he's getting feedback from them that
so it's good.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few more on the list here. There's a game called Novakin.
That one. Yeah, the little mech one.
I saw it on T-Dub.
Yeah,
it is.
That's all I know.
It's a guy called All the Derp, and I don't know if this is a solo project. It says it's just a few weeks old. There's a video out for it. And, it's in the very raw, basic stages right now. But, yeah, it kind of looks like robot tribes, like skiing with mech warrior type of robots, which could potentially be fascinating. I'm looking forward to seeing more from that.
That skiing is so reminiscent of Tribes 1. I just watched it for like 5 seconds. I'm like, oh, yeah, that looks like Tribes 1. Just the fact that you bounce instead of slide. And then you can sort of use the bounce on different angles to completely change your momentum. But you can also jump up hills. So going up is like really, really easy to do, it looks like, in that one. So it smelled like Tribes 1 to me.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's going for. And I think that's a good place to be going for. And so, yeah, we'll be watching that one with a lot of interest here on the Z-Axis. Novakin is the name of the game. Also, TRON Run R. I keep saying it like Forrest Gump. I'm sorry, TRON Run R, because it's a run/R. And now, this is an endless runner, and I do not believe it is associated with Disney or the TRON franchise in any way, so I don't know what that's going to be like in the future, but the game looks pretty cool. and it definitely has some FPS-Z feel to it. I don't know. Have you guys seen the video for that?
It's funny you should mention Forrest Gump, because the way I was gonna describe this game is Forrest Gump meets Nitronic Rush. I don't know if any of you have played. Nitronic Rush was basically came out a few years ago. Was a student project by I think an institute in California, and it's just racing in a TRON team, like a TRON style team. And this looks like pretty much like that, except instead of in a car, you're on foot. And yeah, like Forrest Gump, pretty much.
Yeah, well, so we'll be hopefully we'll be hearing more about that game very soon. Also on the list we've got Insight, which I think that's what he's calling it. Still, he changed that. I think it was Chams or something like that before, and now he's changed it to Insight. I think he's going with that. He's looking for crowdfunding at the moment, but this is more of an arena type shooter game, but it has the parkour and stuff. But it's based on sound. Like as you move, you make sound, and then people can see where you're at based on that sound. I guess kind of like Blacklight Retribution or something, where they can kind of actually see you light up wherever you're at, the more noise you make.
It is hard to wrap your head around in text exactly how that works.
Yeah, I'm hoping that he releases more information about the game, but it does look intriguing. So yeah, it's one of many of the games that are coming out. So this genre is pretty active, and I think that this is our first podcast of 2016. And I think that throughout the course of the year, we're going to have some very interesting things to talk about as some of these projects give us more to go on. And, of course, we'll be seeing more from Midair. And it sounds like Hi-Rez is committed to working with Tribes Ascend at least a little while longer, and we'll see where that goes as well. So, yeah, a lot is going on, and very happy to see that. So I guess with that, we'll start winding things down. Final thoughts and shout-outs. We'll start with FishStix.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast. I do look forward to Midair greatly. Hopefully Tribes Ascend does get the love it deserves. I definitely put 10, 20 hours in after the most recent patch and had a lot of fun. Hopefully the player base continues to, at least grow a little bit. I'd really like to see Hi-Rez or someone else put together some sort of actual tournament beyond just a draft cup, because I do think that would help get the interest going. But yeah, man, it's a good time to be a Tribes fan. We've got a lot of players doing really, really well in Overwatch now, which is making me so excited. We've got the Tribes community representing on a big scale against all these other communities, so that's been super fun to enjoy
Overwatch.
Watching. Yeah, I know some of the Tribes players are actually doing better than almost anyone else at this point, so it's good times.
Yeah, and we don't say it enough, and I know that you're uncomfortable with compliments, man, but I appreciate the fact that you do your best from your position at Twitch to kind of keep these games in the public eye. I mean, that goes a long way with the player base.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a passion thing. I've been playing these types of niche FPS games for a very, very, very long time. So it's not really too big a stretch for me to go out there and do what I can to support where I can, within reason, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to stay tuned to future episodes, and I'll be watching for Midair, and you'll see me around if you're interested in Overwatch or competitive FPS in general. Just give me a follow at FishStix with an X, and that's pretty much it.
Cool. Nordsmark, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, looking forward to seeing what's gonna happen with Ascent in the future as well, and really looking forward to trying out Midair in sometime in the future when that's a thing as well. And again, congratulations with the good Greenlight campaign and all that. That was amazing, and I'm really hyped for that game as well. Then I'm just hyped to play some hopefully good video games in the future, and that's all from me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for being on the show. ArmedPenguin, big tournament coming up in 2 weeks. Your thoughts before we get out of here?
Well, certainly hoping that it goes well. You can go sign up for it on tribeschedule.com, or you can just go to the Reddit/art/tribes, where you can see a big info post, stick it on the top of the page, and it has everything you need to know there. There's even a small pool community funded, about €200, which is, I don't know, about $250, $300. Not quite sure how the exchange rate works these days.
Not good.
Yeah,
like
economy going up
dude.
and down. But yeah, aside from that, I'm looking forward to see how the new patches for Tribes Ascend shape up game. Hopefully it gets better. And it's good to see that a lot of new FPS games, new FPS+Z games are coming out, Midair and all of this other stuff. And it's good to see also that there's members of the Tribes community working on them, like Jamie McComb, which apparently has been is now working with the Midair team. And you guys should definitely get him to stream something, because it should be really entertaining.
Oh my god, I would watch Jamie's stream.
Just suggestions right there.
With webcam. Oh my god,
As a final thought, since FishStix mentioned also, his players doing well, I know it's in a different genre and in a game that it might not be very popular among Tribes fans, but Kenneth from Team Flamboyant fame in Tribes Ascend is currently playing in the Smite World Championship Finals for $100,000 right now.
That's awesome.
That's pretty good for him.
Yes. Good luck to him in that.
Yep, and as last thought, of course, I have to whore myself out, so you can follow me on Twitter at @TheArmedPenguin. Thank you.
Cool, man. How about you, Mabel?
No, good.
You always
Thanks for thanks for voting for us. It's really awesome. But still plenty to do. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And BugsPray, how about you, man?
Yeah, same from me. Thanks everybody for voting for us on Greenlight. It was awesome to see everybody rally around that and all the great comments coming in, and of course all the great feedback as usual. And also keep an eye out for a Kickstarter in the next few months. That's gonna be like really, really important. Like Greenlight was important, but that's really, really important for us. And we'll let you guys know how to help us out as time goes on and we get closer to Kickstarter. And also just keep in mind we got our Twitch stream happening Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern. So definitely tune into that. It'll happen weekly. But
it's like right now, dudes.
That is actually
soon,
like 15 minutes from the time of this recording, but
yeah, which this recording will be out afterwards. But yeah, tune in every week for that. Yeah, so. And congratulations to you guys. I will add that as well. And yeah, we're very excited about Midair. I think a lot of people are. And so we got a lot of good information today. Hopefully a lot of the questions that people had about the future of the game were answered as much as you can. Like I said, it's a tightrope on this stuff. What you can tell versus what you don't want to tell, because then things change. It's always in flux. I want to thank FishStix very much for mainly for recording all this while my internet died, of course, during the recording of this, but also for running the FPS+Z subreddit, the site, and getting this podcast together, and always really being a behind-the-scenes person who keeps these games, in the public eye, keeps the interest going for them, because there is definitely a lot of interest for this genre, and it's an itch that can't be scratched in other ways with other kinds of games. Lord knows we try,
unless it's Overwatch. I mean, what? Huh? Sorry.
Well, Overwatch, yeah, Paladins, the hot new Overwatch-like game from Hi-Rez.
Yeah, but I have Overwatch.
Yeah. Mabel, how are you gonna go pro in Overwatch and be the lead coder on a game? Like I don't. Yeah.
Sometimes just gotta. You'll find out, dude.
Yeah, it's multitasking, right? Yes. and I'm Winners with the One. You can follow me at Winners with the One on Twitter. And, of course, check out our game, #Wrecked, Dawn of Beginnings. You can find it at helllegitgames.com. And follow us on the Hell Legit Games Twitter. We've got, like we said, this is just a pretty basic build right now that you can play, and we'll be doing regular play tests of that, but we have a whole bunch coming up very soon. A lot of content is going to be rolling out, and a lot of changes in how the game looks. And, well, I think people are going to be surprised. Let's just put it that way and leave it at that. So from all of us here at the Z-Axis, the FPS+Z podcast, we want to thank you once again for checking this out. We appreciate all the people who watch and follow and keep up with the stuff. Thank you so much. We will see you next time. Good night.